All right, so here is our last section of this particular tutorial. So in the last video, I ungrouped my squirrel. So my squirrel's all different parts right now. I'm just gonna go ahead and select the squirrel again and group everything back together. And now we are going to look at the a different tool in your gradient palette that's really helpful and ways that you can edit that. Whoops, I just grouped the squirrel, but his nose or her nose or their nose did not get included. Okay, there we go. So up goes the squirrel. All right, so now we're gonna take a look at this fox, and I'm just gonna kind of move it to the center here. Are these guys grouped together? No. Move the bird up here. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I guess I'm just gonna leave the fox there. All right, so this fox, let me just clear out all of this. Actually, I need my gradient tool there. Just clear out all this other stuff. All right, so this fox is currently grouped together, and let's see if there's going to be a big drama with how this fox is grouped together. It doesn't look like it. It looks like I'm going to go ahead and ungroup quite a few things here. So these ears I want to ungroup just for now. Oh my gosh, they've got groups within groups within groups within groups. So I'm going to have you go ahead and go through and ungroup. You can also, really select things with the direct selection tool. That'll work too. I guess it just depends on how you want to work. I find for tutorials and stuff, it's easier to just ungroup everything. All right, so now I've ungrouped all the groups within the fox, and now I'm just going to ungroup the fox so that all these objects are free. So now they're all just free floating individual things. All right, so yeah, the gradient tool. So we're going to make some cool gradients for this fox. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the body of the fox and go ahead and get my swatches up and ready to go. And I am going to go ahead and I think I'm just going to choose the generic, whoops. So I just chose that for the stroke instead of the body of the fox. I actually don't want there to be a stroke at all, so I'm going to come over here to the swap and add that gradient there. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to start editing this gradient from within my gradient tool. So, okay, so in the gradient tool, you have the regular linear one, the radial one, and then at the end you have a free form gradient option. And if you choose that, you're going to see that you have these 2 points that show up in the fox. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up with like a cool swishy gradient that changes from darker to lighter reds, or maybe like an orange to a red. And then I'm going to use that to fill the rest of the body of the fox. And this can make for like a really cool smooth-ish vector look. So you can add in points wherever you like in here. And so anyways, this is a really cool tool. So I'm going to go ahead and go in and I'm going to start just choosing, that's kind of too bright of a red. I'm going to start choosing colors, and then you can make further adjustments to the size of it here. So the ring just moves a little bit, but you can see it makes a pretty big change. So if I come in here and choose orange, and maybe over here, I'm going to choose another lighter orange, and then maybe red again for this bottom foot area. You know, something like that. This one's still white. Maybe this one can be more of a muted yellow. All right, cool. And so if I want to add this gradient to my palette, let's see. If I have my direct selection tool, so I'm off the gradient tool, it doesn't look like it added it in here, but I should be able to drag and drop this gradient into the palette. So there we go. And then I should be able to come in and select the head. Oh, wow, it's in the shape of it. That's strange. I'm just gonna go back. I guess I hadn't really added this gradient to the swatch panel before. Whoops. So I'm just gonna Command Z. Maybe this one can't be added in that way. Now the tail of the fox needs to be closed, so I'm gonna go to my pen tool. I'm gonna click on that last anchor and I'm just gonna go ahead and close that up. Okay, so I just looked it up and it is true. You cannot save a freeform gradient as anything in your swatch panel, but you can save it as a graphic style. So that's what I did. I just drug it and dragged it into the graphic style panel, and then I'm gonna go ahead and apply it as a graphic style to the other objects, and then hypothetically, you know, I should be able to, when I click on this, go in here. Let's see, edit gradient, and go in here and change things around if I don't like how it's sitting. So yeah, that's kind of strange. The tail needs to be underneath the body, but I will fix that soon. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and add the graphic style then to the head. Let's see. Yeah, I'll go ahead and add it to the head and then the very tips of the ears and see how that's gonna look. Can I only add a graphic style to one thing at a time? Next question. Or maybe if I just have them selected and choose them both, okay. All right, so yeah, so I can come in here and individually edit these gradients. Now for this, where the brow, I guess, is coming kind of down to the nose, I want this to be kind of high contrast. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and edit this gradient so that we have a lot of red, and then maybe it goes to more yellow at the top here. So I'm going to go ahead and edit in a lot of red there so there's high contrast to create dimensionality. Then I'm going to add a point here, which is going to be more of like the yellow color. Make that a bit bigger area. And then maybe add another point here that's also yellow. And so then when I come down into this lower face area, let's see. I'm not quite sure. It doesn't look like it's wanting me to edit that one. Points, lines. Yeah, so that's strange. I'm not getting the edit gradient option when I have this selected, and I'm not quite sure why. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my properties window, see what's going on in here. There's something funny going on with that body part. Oh, it's a group. That's why. See? Groups can be interesting. groups can cause problems. So it's just a single path that's in a group. So I'm going to go ahead and ungroup this. And then it should behave normally, which it is. So now I can edit the gradient. So yeah, as you can see, like groups sometimes can, you know, there's certain things you can't do. So I'm going to make this more of that yellow color. I'm going to add a point over here so we have a really high contrast. And then maybe down on the cheekbones, I'll go ahead and add that red back in. That one's already red. And I'll kind of put that there. Okay. So that fox is looking pretty cool. I can go in here and add, you know, let's say I just want to do like a black fill on these ears. The end of the tail, of course, is going to be black, and the inner part of the eyes. I'm just going to flip that from a black stroke to a black fill. Same with the nose. And I'll just leave those spots as is. And I'll leave that white in the ears because I kind of like that negative space there. So there's coloring something in with a gradient. Now that I'm done with my fox, I'm going to go ahead and select all the body parts of the fox. Well, actually, I need to move this tail back. So if I go ahead and just grab the tail here, I'm going to group the tail together. And then I'm going to move that down underneath the body so that the hierarchy is looking right there. And then I'm going to select this all, group Mr. Fox back together. And there you go. So what I want you to do for the bird is, you know, depending on how the bird is organized, you might have to ungroup some things. But I want you to create your own, you know, create some graphic styles, do some cool coloration with this bird, and get some practice with that. As we move forward, you're going to be working on, you know, your first big illustration, which is going to include characters and a forest landscape of some kind. So it'll be good to have all these tools and, you know, knowing how to use brushes and patterns and all this stuff to create really interesting options for your artwork. All right, so that is it for this tutorial. What I'm going to have you do to submit is you should have, you know, not exactly like mine, but several items where you've gone through and played with different brushes and patterns and graphic styles and things like that. So what I'm going to have you do is we're just going to export what's on this artboard. We don't need to export all the other stuff. And to do that, you're going to go to export, export as, export it as a JPEG. And if you don't hit use artboards, it's going to export this giant image with all the stuff that's around the artboards, and that's not what you want. So just hit use artboards, and you know, there's only one artboard on this project, so I'm just gonna hit range 1, and then we'll go ahead and save this to the desktop. So I'm gonna export that. Go ahead and do it at RGB at, you know, 300 PPI, that's fine. Go ahead and hit save. And then what you should get is, let me go ahead and save this here. I'm going to minimize that. And then what you should have is, oh my gosh, all these panels. Bye, panels. Goodbye, panels. Where did I drag it to? There we go. So you're going to have a JPEG, you know, with stuff on it like this. Of course, not exactly like mine, but something like this that you're going to turn in, showing me that you understand, you know, all these different techniques for coloration, because it's going to, once you create your base artwork, your shapes and your geometry, you know, the characteristics that you use to color things is what really drives a lot of the visual style, you know, in a lot of ways. So, all right, this is what you're going to turn in, just this JPEG for me. And as long as you have on there that you've shown you can, do all the different things we covered in this tutorial, you will receive full credit. So, all right. Yeah, let me know if you have any questions, if anything didn't make sense. You can always reach out to me no matter what and ask for one-on-one help with this stuff, okay? All right, everybody. Bye.